Welcome to Inside the Studio with Greg Wurth. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about these new virtual tube collection modules from Slate Digital. They just came out a couple weeks ago. There's three different ones. There's one called the London, New York, and Hollywood, and they're based on tube circuits. And what's really cool about each of them is that they're very unique from each other, but also they're versatile on their own. Each module has a preamp setting and a console setting, which gives you a different level of harmonic distortion. In preamp mode, it's a lot more drastic, so you can get way more crunch out of the track. In console mode, it's a lot more subtle. It's like hitting, the channel or the summing stage of a tube console. I'm not exactly sure which units that they modeled here, but it doesn't really matter because they just sound great. One cool feature is that if you're still not getting enough gain, full saturation up, preamp mode, you can hit push mode, and that just pushes it harder and just drives it to further distortion. What I like about these, not only is it just, it's a part of the everything bundle. So if you have the everything bundle, you just get it as soon as it comes out. But I found that these work on literally everything. It's not like typical saturation boxes where you got to do a lot of tweaking to get that exact kind of setting or sound that you're looking for. This is just kind of real quick in my experience. I've used it on kick, snare, drum bus, bass, vocals, acoustic guitar, electric guitar. I've chained them together all in series, things like that. I know if you guys have the everything bundle, you guys have all already done that. And everybody pretty much has the same response, is that it's just mind-blowing. I can't get it to sound bad. The only thing that can really go wrong, other than just hearing too much distortion, which is pretty obvious and you can back it down, is this high frequency. If you're doing anything that has a lot of low end, it's best to just leave that alone. The only time that I ever dial this up is if I'm doing vocals or guitars or something that doesn't have a lot of low end. Just to further go over the settings here, it's got a saturation knob, self-explanatory. All the way to 10 is just the most amount of saturation. Again, you can hit push mode. The high frequency I just explained, this sort of filters out the low end. So you don't really want to mess with that unless you're dealing with tracks that don't have any low end. Output mode, I really don't ever use this. This adds a little gain to it, but it doesn't really bother me because usually I'm blending it in a parallel or whatever, and it's just fine. I guess for instances where I'm going to put it on a stereo bus like I am right now, I might use the output, but it's there if you need it. And your best friend here is this mix knob. This is what makes everything gravy, because you can just get that saturation that you want and just blend it back down and just kind of tuck it in to your liking. I love this for bass. I mean, if you love distortion and you want to get a really fat upfront bass track, this is what you want to do. And depending on, try each of them. They all sound great. My first impression was that I was really loving London the most, but I've grown to like them all, and they have their own unique characteristics. And so without further ado, let me just give you an example. I'm going to throw this on a stereo bus and just show you a drastic setting. This is just something different. Mostly I put it on individual tracks, but this, I want to show you that you can get good results from this on the stereo bus, which typically you wouldn't do unless you had something that was more tweakable, like the Mix Satellite by Vertigo Sound, or whatever else is out there. I don't know, you tell me. But this, to me, what I like about this is its simple settings. You can't beat it. For me, I don't want to spend hours trying to figure out parameters. Some people are cool with that, and for those guys, there's software and equipment that caters to that. So, all right, let's take a listen here. I'm going to start with London and move on to New York and Hollywood and just tweak it and show you some drastic settings, and then I'll back it down and show you where I would probably put it if I was going to use it in a final mix.
In my head when I sleep, my thoughts are all at peace. But where am I to find the peacefulness I seek? I'd give up everything to live life peacefully. In my head, in my head, in my head, I dream of light. In my head, I dream of light. In my head, I dream of light. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da. Ya da da. Ya da da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da. Ya da da. Ya da da. With my life, in my life. My life, I want the truth, but where am I to find the truthfulness in life? I'd give up all I have to live without a lie. In my head, in my head, in my head, I dream of light. In my head, I dream of light. In my head, I dream of light. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da da. Ya da da. In my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light. Until then I will tend to the answers that I need. In my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light. With my light I will try to do the best I can. In my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light. In the end I will know what it meant to be a man. In my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light. In my head, in my head, in my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light. In my head I dream of light.
Okay, so that was an example showing the drastic settings and then me tweaking it to taste for each module. In my listening, I felt that Hollywood just sounded the nicest. But overall, this just, this breathes life, analog life into a digital track. It's very subtle, but it just gives you these rich harmonics without actually, taking away or degrading anything. It doesn't overly dull anything out. It just kind of excites everything overall. And that's what I like about these. They're easy to use. They're quick. They're within the VMR module so that you can just really put them in any configuration that you want. This is definitely something that everybody should have. All right. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the newsletter on my website. Give me some likes. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think. All right. I'll check you out next time.